Okay, now let's bring in my next guest, who says he's on a mission to fundamentally change the federal government and usher in a new era of Republican oversight on Capitol Hill. And boy, does he walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Joining me now, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Matt, thank you, Congressman, sorry. Thank you for joining us from CPAC. I was just there earlier today. Yeah, you want to fundamentally change the way the Republican Party acts and I don't know, fights back against woke. Tell us about your plan.
So we have seen Democrats participating in the transcribed interviews of whistleblowers as of yesterday, taking action to go and smear those whistleblowers. I think they're doing it to try to harm the investigations that we're doing now in the majority. And I also think they're doing it to try to discourage others from coming forward and explain where they see excesses in the use of federal power. And we have to stop the weaponization of this government. And I don't think we're going to get there playing by the old rules. I don't think that the traditional tools of oversight are sufficient to encounter the threat that we do, and that's why I laid out a new paradigm. I think we need to accelerate the subpoenas we're issuing, and I'm really excited to be working with Jim Jordan on that fight because he's a great leader and he totally understands how to do this effectively.
Yeah, and when you say do this effectively, Matt, Congressman, are you talking about congressional hearings? I guess I think everyone's waiting. When's the Hunter Biden hearing going to start? Maybe even into, you know, Joe Biden's history with Ukraine and with China and other places. Is that part of the plan?
Well, I think you're going to see Jamie Comer in the Oversight Committee take the lead on the connections between the Biden family and China and Ukraine. I can tell you, having gone through a lot of that evidence, it's really compelling how many meetings Hunter Biden is having at the Chinese embassy and what he's having to trade as far as access to be able to show off to the donors to his fund that he has embassy access there with the ambassador. He will take the lead on that. Our effort is focused on the government's actions, on the FBI, the Department of Justice, and what whistleblowers have already told us is that there was a task force that existed to try to zap any derogatory information about the Biden family, to deem it foreign influence or Russian disinformation. And the reality is those are leads regarding criminal activity, not just of Hunter Biden, but of Joe Biden as well, and they should be pursued based on the facts and the law, not based on the FBI and the DOJ becoming the plumbers or the fixers for the Biden family's just international crime grift.
So, Congressman, you're in the right place at the right time for my next question, because you walk around that venue, and I did all day, all last night, all day today. It's a very Trumpian crowd. We get that. You're a Florida congressman. You got Donald Trump, but you also may have Governor Ron DeSantis. Tell us how you square that circle. Where does the allegiance lie? What happens here? And more importantly, I guess, sir, what happens to all those voters behind you? Which way do they fall?
Well, it is a very pro-Trump crowd indeed here at CPAC. I expect the former president to win the straw poll. That's the feedback I've gotten on the ground. It's what I've encouraged people to do who are here. I support President Trump. I've worked very closely with Ron DeSantis. I worked very hard to get him elected governor, and I want all 8 years of Ron DeSantis as the governor of the state of Florida. And if we do it right, we'll get the best of both. We'll get 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency in his second term, and then we may have a Ron DeSantis presidency thereafter. But I think Trump's got the magic for this moment, and this seems to be a crowd that's ready for the MAGA movement.
Great, great. You know, we were supposed to have, and we promoted this, and we have to talk about, we were supposed to have Ron DeSantis on. We were literally mic'd up, and we had a technical issue, maybe some weather, a technical issue with his side of the microphone. In Houston, we wanted to bring that to the folks as well, but we'll do that as soon as possible. But Matt, you know, one of the other important topics, you know, you held out on the speaker vote for quite a while. You were very vocal and very, again, you not just talk the talk, you walk the walk as well. You believe in something and you go for it. In hindsight, this is Kevin McCarthy, and the reason why I'm bringing up this issue is that, you know, this giving the documents, this 40,000 hours of videotape to Tucker Carlson from the January 6th, you know, listen, I think it was a bit of a mistake by McCarthy. He could correct the mistake and give it to us. What do you think about him sharing the wealth, spreading the wealth around, let all the other TV networks, or at least this one, see some of that footage?
Well, I believe that we should have broad release of that information. I've called for broad release of it. I think this is a first step. I don't think it's a last step. And I think the American people deserve access to that information. And I think it's a red herring when you hear people say, oh, well, this will endanger the security of members. People walk the halls of the Capitol every day. Tour groups, family members, constituents, friends. It's not a state secret where the doors are and where the hallways are in the United States Capitol. So I favor the broadest possible release of that information.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a copy. As I told him, my inbox is wide open. Congressman, before we go, we'd like you to weigh in on the DirecTV issue. We keep hearing that there's going to be some sort of congressional hearing coming up to find out. I think there are 4 senators, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, and others, sent a letter to AT&T management saying what gives here, what's going on here. Do you think we're going to get a hearing from from Congress into what DirecTV and AT&T, whether or not they censored Newsmax and OAN and others?
Let's be clear. We should have a hearing. The Energy and Commerce Committee should have a hearing. I have publicly called for the Energy and Commerce Committee to have this hearing, and there's no justifiable reason why that hasn't happened yet. So I am concerned about that, and I think we need to correct it. I see no evidence that a hearing is scheduled on this matter. That's concerning because AT&T and DirecTV have tremendous market power, and I believe that antitrust equities are likely touched by this action. And if we aren't prepared to use strong antitrust tools against this type of an action, then there's not going to be conservative speech available, and then you don't have free speech. And so the terms of service for DirecTV should not become more important than the values that undergird the United States Constitution. And I think Republicans in power in the House of Representatives on the Energy and Commerce Committee need to do more.
Great. Appreciate your time. Congressman Matt Gaetz, always good having you on, and keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Keep it up.
Thank you, Eric.